TMI. We're diving into the discussion for this particular segment from our Benin Network Center. It's all about the Take It Back protests. Is it politically motivated, or is the media thing that Nigerians need to do to call for the attention of the government of the day led by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that is not even in the country as we speak? With me here in the studio, she is, was rather, former NAWAT chairman. Join to welcome Comrade Grace Ijoma Ume. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your coming.
Thank you, Wilson.
And of course, Professor Owen Olowu, a lecturer in Uniben. Thanks so much for coming, Prof.
Thank you, Wilson. And good morning, viewers at home.
Are we expecting Solomon Idiogbe, human rights activist, to come join us in the studio as we progress in the show? I want to start off from you, comrade. The protest, was it really impactful? Was it really important? Was it necessary for Nigerians to go out there in the street yesterday to do what they did in terms of protesting about the government of the day?
Yes, we are in a country polarized around various sentiments, various groups, various political leanings, and a whole lot has been going on and going wrong in this country called Nigeria, that people have had it up to their neck in terms of the nature of leadership in the country. People have had it up to their neck in terms of how they could tolerate what is happening in Nigeria at the moment. Of course, we have had several protests. We have had the mother of all protests, which happened in the past, and which, carved a new niche for Nigeria. But then that wouldn't make us feel, because that one didn't realize its purpose. Then people would just sit back and accept whatever is thrown down their necks or their throat, hook, line, and sinker. Nigeria has come to a point where people want to take actions and get the people at the helms of leadership accountable for whatever they are doing. And I think that protest was necessary.
It was necessary?
Yes.
Well, Prof, do you share her views that the process, necessary fact, is paramount for Nigerians to march out yesterday to say, end bad governance, giving some pointers about the reason why they're protesting?
I really don't understand why. It's not the Nigerian society. I really don't understand why the government of the day is trying to demonize protest. Because protests, we got democracy through protest and agitation rather. Peaceful protest is not supposed to be an issue. And I really don't see any reason why anybody, whether governments or any particular interest, should be against protest. Protest is a way through which the common man can be heard. So that people came out yesterday to protest for several reasons. To me, the protest is even long overdue. And I remember we have had history of protests in this country, and we have gotten results from protests. It's just that in the last two dispensations, this and the previous dispensation, protest became a serious issue, and people were killed, and many things happened. We got democracy. Babangida was forced out of office, technically. Babangida was forced out of. I was still very young in the 80s when we heard Babangida must go protest. It was a protest that was done all over the country. Everybody spoke with one voice, and all that. And of course, that was what forced Babangida to bring on the transition program, where you have SDP, NRC, and the likes. And then from there, we had interim government. And then from there, you know what happened? Military again came. And then it's surprising that the leaders that we have today actually technically got to, they came to limelight through leading protest and agitation, like the present president of this country. You remember the protest that was done in Lagos, the Gani Square protest, where they protested against Jonathan's government and all that, all prominent people. Me, I'm even very surprised that our civil society and many, I don't know, everybody seems to have gone cold. And now we are not left at the mercy of ourselves, you know, and nobody is willing to want to come out to lead anything again, because once they pick on the leaders, and then they try to persecute them and all that, and everybody seems to be hiding his or her head. To be very honest with you, protest is a right, if you ask me, through which people express themselves. We have representatives who are supposed to be representing us, but these representatives that we have do not really feel a sense of responsibility to the common man, because when you talk, you can't even lay claim that, oh, these persons were voted into power through, you know, so they don't feel indebted to the masses.
All right.
So the masses just feel that the only way they can now express themselves is through process. And you know, the one that happened yesterday, it was basically for the interim government in Port Harcourt. That was actually one of the reasons why
we are coming to that.
So
we are coming to
and all that. So protest is not supposed to be an issue. It's not supposed to be something we demonize at all. It's okay to protest. If you know that it's not violence.
All right. If you take a look at the man on the screen, Omoyele Sowore,
yeah.
Some people say that he is an activist. Others are saying he is a politician after all he's contested once or twice for the presidency or the presidential seat, yes, in this particular country. And because of this, some of the view that the protest was politically motivated. Comrade Ijoma, what do you feel about this assertion?
Well, I read an article that said that Sowore is like a two-faced, two-sided person who you cannot trust. Then some people, the common man in the country is also saying that we need people more of a Sowore in our nation, because he's bold, he's an activist, he's a politician, he's a unionist. And people like that, you have to fear them, because when they take actions, they take it from all angles. They smoke from all sides of the cannon. Do you understand? So Sowore is needed in our nation polity, because of the standpoint as an activist, the standpoint as a voice for the voiceless, a standpoint of a masses person, somebody who drives causes and achieves results. The politicians fear him, and that is enough to tell you that that personality is a personality that we need more of, like 5 of them in Nigeria.
Well, 5 of them in Nigeria?
5 of them in Nigeria.
Because someone's saying, look, he's a core politician, what is he doing there?
But he's driving a cause for change, and that is very relevant.
Right.
We can't just allow politicians to get away with their lackadaisical attitude to governance. They will just sit back and think people won't do anything. Sowore does not hold a gun. He's not a militant. We have militants in the past who held guns, and yet things didn't happen, but at least an impact was made in their regions.
All right.
Sowore is needed.
You just hold on, I want to go for a break. I will return. We'll continue with this discussion. Don't go away. So much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is TMI. With us here in the studio is right activist, political affairs commentator, General. Welcome, Solomon Ijobe. Solomon,
thank you very much. Good morning, Winston, and viewers at home, a very good morning this morning.
All right, so we're taking a look at one of the characters that was there spearheading the protest, the person of Omoyele Sowore. Some are saying he's a politician, but for what Comrade Ijoma talked about, she said politicians fear this character that is needed to spearhead the protest. And if we have 5 like him in this country, I believe that the government would just be on its toe to do the right thing for Nigerians. Solomon, as an activist, what do you feel about this?
Well, you know, Sowore is a character of his own, and if you ask me, he's a politician. Yes, of course, he's a politician. Somehow relating within the political space of the activism, yes. He is the leader of the Take It Back and the Revolution Now movements in Nigeria. And for me, I do not know why some of us feel or make some comments that we make, but everybody is entitled to his opinion. To me, I think Showore has identified more with politics than pure activism, personally. Because if you are not careful when you are within the activism space, and you are too romantic with the political class, you'll be seeing more of a political threat and a politician than being an activist. So Showore has been a presidential candidate in this country. Showore has made very bold political statements. And so, of course, many will see more of a politician than an activist. If you ask me about the protests or the issues raised, are they issues that should raise concern? Yes, they are. But maybe because of his political antecedents, do not forget Showore, before now, has been an ally, or was an ally of the Tunubus and the Buharis. Before the APC took over, he was one of those who was involved in the internal play. So, otherwise, ask me, is protests not a legitimate right of every Nigerian? Is protests not a right to you and I? Because it's a way of expression, and the Constitution guarantees freedom of expression. So why would police go out there and start tear gassing protesters, you know, who are out to protest over certain things they feel are not right?
All right.
That will only mean that they see him not just as an activist, but as a political threat.
Right. I'll come back to you. You were making a point about the Rivers State Sole Administrator. Some were crying about that. And of course, the person of this great activist Showore being present about the nation of many Nigerians, saying that this must just be politically motivated. Professor, what do you feel about this?
I have my reservation about Showore. My reservations. But I'm going to absorb Showore for now, because he was among those who led this country to stage during the time of President Goodluck Jonathan at the Ganifa Square. He was an active member of that protest. And of course, they painted Nigeria as bad, and of course, why we must change governments and all that. And it came to pass. And we have a new government, we have a new party in government, the APC and all that. My worry is that many of these persons, many of them are still alive, who participated in that protest. They are in Nigeria, and they are seeing in Nigeria that is now worse off than what they protested against. And many of them have become very docile, become very quiet all of a sudden. They have gone into their shell. Nobody is talking again. So always seem to be the only one who is still sticking at his head to want to assist the masses, where the Nigeria Labour Congress, the TUC, have obviously failed the masses. TUC, NSC. In fact, I really don't know what is happening to those trade unions. And these were people, oh God, I really will for this country. Better notwithstanding. Sorry. For now, Alazobi, but what if, I have some reservation, like I said, what if Showore is just risking the lives of these innocent protesters that are with him, wearing the same yellow cap, revolutionary? What if? What if this protest is even staged? What if? Because I have this thing about Showore. What if Showore is being sponsored But even the government in power to just make noise so that to prevent other people who are really serious from making noise. Do you get what I'm saying? Or make noise so that they will say, at least we protested recently, let the protest rather. And I just saw on screen how protesters were scrambling for safety, you know, and all that. What if this thing is staged? What if Sowore is actually settled, paid to do this? Because many of these people that are here, if you possibly will interview many of them behind the scene, many of them have been paid to be here. Genuine protest. People don't get paid for genuine protest. We have seen cases in this country where people go to National Assembly to protest, and they wait. So the recent one, Natasha versus Akpabio, where you interviewed many persons at the background. They didn't even know why they were asked to protest. They were paid money, and they said it on camera. And there were cases where, after the protest, there was fight on sharing money. What if these protesters, because I can see their number, this is not like, are they, okay, daredevil protesters? These boys I'm seeing on the screen may have been paid after this protest. So for Sowore, I have my reservation because I just remember not too distant in the past year where Sowore was incarcerated, was kept in prison, and they took the intervention of the United States, or many, of course, they intervened. He was in prison for some time.
All right.
And then he was eventually released, and then he went to US, and then one would think that, this thing will drive him into his shell. Ideally, most persons will go into their shell. I was surprised when he launched a comeback into the country, and then he came back, and I just feel that this guy, they have been settled, they have been bought over like the Reno Mokris who are now talking from two sides of their mouth.
No, hold on now. I'm not going to dive into Reno Mokri because
I'm just talking.
I like your stance on what if.
What
You're
if?
like, you know, what if, what if. Let me come to...
I'm just speculating. What if?
Let me come to Comrade Ijoma, because we are having doubt, or he's having doubt rather, about this protest. Take a look at the organization, take a look at the personnel, take a look at that particular heart. Is it orange color? Coming out to say this is what we want. It isn't like that hashtag EndSARS protest where everybody came out. Do you share his sentiment that maybe, just maybe, someone is pulling the strings?
You know, not just us, the panelists here.
Yeah.
It's possible, and it's obvious that people out there will act like the blind men of Hindustan who went to visit the elephant. They have varied opinions about the shape, the contours, and size of the elephant. So it's possible that the personality of Sowore, just like Jesus Christ too, who people were saying, who are you? Such personalities always confound the wise. Such personalities always confound the wise. Jesus Christ was on earth and people were saying, even his own apostles, who are you? And he asked them, who do you say I am? So just like the elephant in the Hindustan story, where the blind men were touching him to know his shape, it is possible that's the same thing that's happening to Sowore today. Who was Martin Luther King? Who was the late president of South Africa, Mandela? Who was he? He was a politician, he was an activist. So you wouldn't remove politics from an activist. Solomon would attest to that. You wouldn't remove politics from an activist.
But you never agree that he's a politician. I'd be like, I'm not a politician. That's what I keep saying.
We know him. We know him. There's no way you can divest politics from activism. There is no way. The personality who is an activist goes undertone to play politics, all for the betterment of the people. You cannot hobnob with politicians and say you are an activist, or you will not hobnob with them and say you are a politician. There is no way. They are like Siamese twins. They must come together one time or the other. Sowore's personality should be respected. People went out yesterday and they were tear-gassed. This man had been in prison. What else would he do for you to believe that he's standing for the common man? If eventually his political ambition sails through, good. Mandela went to prison. Mandela suffered all sorts. And then he became the president of South Africa. Was he not a politician? He hobnobbed with the Western colonizers to achieve a reason and a purpose for his people. So if this man stands like that figure, why not? We need to give him support. That's what we need to do, rather than come thinking about whether it's genuine, whether it's not genuine or sincere. It is not about show, it is about the politicians who are trying to run the country down at all costs, mindless about how we feel. They don't even think whether people are existing that they are leading. They are ruling and holding us to the jugular, and it is time for somebody to rise. Like I said before, and I maintain, if we have up to 5 of his kind, Nigeria will be a better place.
All right. Now let's take a look at the protest. One of the things they talked about is about the sole administrator in Rivers State. And of course, apart from the skirmish nature of the protest, like Nigerians don't even trust the protest. If you compare the intensity of yesterday's protest and that of the hashtag End SARS or Bad Governance protest, you could feel the difference. You could sense the difference. And Nigerians becoming more and more docile by the day. Solomon.
Not really, no. But let me put it this way, that Nigeria is more or less like a conquered space. Because people do not believe in the system. There's a total systemic failure. And I'll come back to the reason why people are not too pushed to moving protests. But let me quickly answer my sister here about politics and activists. Activists are politicians. Politicians are not activists. Now, let me define it. That there's partisan politics and there is non-partisan politics. So, activists are liberal Democrats. They don't usually practice partisan politicking, being a member of or a card-carrying member of a known political party. Yes, they hope no cutting across political parties and political divides. No permanent friend, no permanent enemy. If there's a reason to speak out, we'll speak out on it. If there's a reason to commend, we'll commend. So we'll give commendations for good and condemnations for evil. For instance, whatever anybody think about the governor of Edo State, you cannot convince a Solomon Idiobe that Monday Okpawolo has not done well in creating a flyover at the Ramat Park. That doesn't make him my best, but that has made him the people's man in that aspect. I'm just putting it in perspective. But having said that, people look at the justice system in Nigeria, the legal system, and the political situation in the state. And in the end, you need to put food on your table. Because the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has succeeded in actually reducing the purchasing power of an average Nigerian. And as such, poverty looms. And so people may not have that unless a few of us who feels that beyond struggling to make ends meet for yourself, there's a need to talk about the ease of the society. That is not to say that the putting or setting up of a sole administrator in Rivers State is politically right. That is not to say that the political romance amongst or between the executive and the legislative or the judiciary in the Nigerian state, Solomon, is admirable. Solomon, some of us. But it is to say that people are not at all comfortable, but they are also looking at the possibility of making ends meet. Now we'll come back to Shawari and the less number. Now I'll tell you this. For some of us here, you may not have seen us in the Edo Take It Back. Not because we did not think that it was right to make comments about the Cyber Act law or the issues in Rivers State. But a lot of us believe in issues that we own and we understand clearly.
All right, Solomon, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Look at the issue being protested against. The cyberspace issue. Sole Administrator in River State. How does that put food on the table of the common man, Prof?
I'm particularly worried about the deafening silence of the NLC and the TUC.
Those are already a political group.
See,
hold on now, hold on.
The
Solomon.
deafening
Yes,
silence of the NUC and the whatever they call themselves. When I say NUC now,
NLC.
Don't mind me, Nigerian University Commission. NLC, I mean to say, yes, and the TUC. I'm really particularly worried. To say that things are bad is to say the least. Is to even be. Is to paint it mildly. Thank you. Even the core politicians, as in the people who are active players in politics, people who are in government, who are holding one position or the other, they themselves know that this is not the Nigeria we had in 2015. Fine. I have one of my former students who later became my colleague, who after a while, because of the poor nature of the job we do and the poor remuneration, the guy resigned from the teaching profession, and fortunately for that guy, got a job in Central Bank of Nigeria. Recently, we met in Lagos during one function, and we got talking. And he was trying to convince me that, because the guy is not a politician, he's a liberal person, he was trying to convince me that if not for these policies of rooting the Naira, policy of removing fuel subsidy, and he said this country would have collapsed. That's what he told me.
Oh, really? He would have collapsed?
That's what he told me.
Without this,
yes,
all this
he
put in
told me
place.
that a lot was done underground during the last dispensation, Buhari, to just keep the Naira at that particular level it was. A lot of fake things were done, and that if we had continued, the boy is a young, I call him boy. He was my student, became my colleague, and after a while he left. He's not a politician. He's actively involved in the business of CBN. He's young there, but because of his qualification and all that, so he's involved in policy making and many committees he has served in as a young boy, you know. And he was trying to convince me, because for many of us who are just laymen, we didn't really see the need to remove fuel subsidy, because why? It brought untold hardship on the people. Fuel prices are assaulted. In fact, cost of living. In fact, I'm the president of the senior staff club. I was just making a review just recently. I said when I became president in 2023, I was selling a bottle of Edikin for as low as 600 naira. But as you speak now, it's about 1,500 or thereabout. And this increment was done 50 naira, 50 naira. You won't even notice that the thing is going up. So the boy was trying to convince me, said, this policy of floating the naira, that took the naira to almost 2,000 naira at some point, though it has started retracing, that took fuel price to close to 1,400 naira, that the thing actually helped to save Nigeria. And he also told me this, he said, as he's talking to me, this was like barely 3 weeks ago we met in Lagos. He said that when the CBN governor and the CBN governor and the Minister of Finance made some remarks about investors are not coming into Nigeria, that people may think that is a lie, but actually it is true, because he's actually living. So what am I trying to say? I want to believe that the removal of fuel subsidy, I'm talking about the hardship now, I'm trying to just link them up. That statement, that remark at the inaugural speech of the president, subsidy is gone, actually put us in this mess, because I believe even if these policies, according to my friend, my colleague, former colleague, if these policies are really positively impacting the economy, trying to create recovery for all that, but I believe that there would have been a better way to do this.
All right.
A better way to possibly systematically do this, and then before we know, we will start. The thing will not just be, it was dramatic. It was drastic.
All right, I'll come back to you,
just
Prof.
fell apart.
I'll come back to
So,
you. You said the measure saved Nigeria according to
That
your
is
friend.
according to my friend.
Okay, fine.
Who is part of the people
Policy
policies
makers,
for the
okay,
Central
fine.
Bank of
Because,
Nigeria. So me, I'm not an expert
One
in that
can
area.
say the hardship has already knocked on your
Yes, of
friend's
course.
door.
All of us. It's
Yes, that's what
affecting.
it has.
We cannot rule that. It's affecting everybody.
And I would like to know his tribe.
It's a Benin boy.
All right, now let me
So
come to
Benin boy.
before we call it a wrap to move over to Abuja Network Center. Are Nigerians too hungry right now, too tired to join this kind of protest? Because Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and one other state, others are like, please just let us be. We didn't hear about it in Edo State. And it was like, called for nationwide. Comrade Jama.
I think it is the same mistrust that we are talking about. People do not trust the system, the manner of the protests, and the possibility of the protest achieving
It's aim.
its aims and objectives. People no longer trust it. And then they are looking at that NSAS protest. People are still referring to that protest. It was bloody, and people do not want to stake their heads for that. Nigeria, we are surviving on our own. Leadership is not even it's not a factor anymore. Like in our streets, we did self-help to grade our roads. We are doing self-help to provide transformer. We are doing self-help to provide security for ourselves. We pay the vigilante. We do all that.
Your own compound,
we do
Provide your water.
your own water.
Your lights.
You run your electricity yourself. So leadership is no longer a factor
we are government.
in our survival. We are a government of our own. It's no longer like looking forward to saying one leader will come up and take a decision that will change. We are only hoping that one day God will put the unction in them.
Yeah, we're going to divinity. God will put the unction.
Put the unction in them to do the right thing.
Right.
A man wakes up a day after he was declared president to say he's removing this, he's removing that. And that's just like the Prof has said, that was what turned everything around. Wow. If not, that decision would have been done in a way, systematic way. Let me see borrow it. Gently put it into the system, and you will see it achieving its aim.
All right.
Let me just round off with this.
Please do.
Let me round off with this. Last December, we saw no queues. That was the first time in the history that we didn't see queues at the filling stations. You just walk in, buy the fuel.
And somebody say, without money to buy fuel that December, that's like
people bought fuel. I bought fuel. My colleagues bought fuel.
You can speak for yourself.
People bought fuel.
Okay, thank you.
People actually bought fuel.
Thank you. Solomon, your last line, I have to move over to Abuja where Ikarata is standing by.
My take is that Nigerians are really hungry. We may not understand. And I don't know from where that his colleague is coming from. Maybe particularly, maybe, I don't know. But it will be hard to convince any average Nigerian that the policy has a positive impact on the Nigerian state. However, I think that Nigerians must continue to speak out. Nigerians must continue to look out. Nigerians must continue to realize that we have no other country and there's a need to taking it back.
All right.
Your approach in taking it back should be within the confines of the law.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.